Hey there, Wargamers. Austin here with Brush for Hire and Death Ray Designs, and I'm here with
Chris.
And today we're going to start a new series of videos, and maybe, hopefully, we can have a long-standing set of videos that I don't completely abandon. So I decided it'd be fun to take the opportunity, because Chris is just getting into Wargaming, that we should do a series that focuses on things that new Wargamers need to know, or would be interesting for new Wargamers to hear about. There's plenty of things that we talk about amongst ourselves that seem very commonplace, and we all know what we're talking about, but a new Wargamer might be struggling with the details of even some of the smallest things that we take for granted. So, in this episode, we're just going to kind of get some general impressions from Chris, who's just been initiated. I'm going to ask some questions, and we'll see what we get. What all have you got right now?
Well, it started with Wrath of Kings, back to that fateful day when Austin handed me a starter box, and from there, I was handed War Machine and Malifaux.
And you picked up another game at Adepticon, too.
Warzone.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the religious cult, but I forget what the name is.
I think it's Brotherhood.
That's right. The Brotherhood.
Yeah. Which looks like a fantastic game, which is from Prodos Games. Those guys are totally awesome. We got to hang out with them at Adepticon a bunch. Really great group of guys and some amazing models. And what looks to be a pretty fun game. Apparently, I hear that in Europe especially, it is kind of become a 40K killer. So I'm very excited to hear that. Anything that can compete on the level with Games Workshop, I'm definitely interested to see. Not because I hate 40K. It's a great game, but it can't be the only game. It can't be the top of the card forever. So I'd love to see what's next. What was the deciding factor? What made you interested enough to want to start playing war games?
Well, I had a background in things like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder and single miniature games. And I had always had friends that had played things like 40K that I knew about, but never knew anything about the actual game itself.
Yeah.
And then once I started hanging out with you guys, y'all were really excited about it and just really passionate about doing things like making your own terrain, just coming together on a Friday night and playing every Friday and doing it consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy that likes fun, and so having a consistent weekly thing was just appealing to me. And then you helped to make it an easy to kind of transition into thing with, the fact that you had product that you were willing to lend me and whatnot to start building armies. And so from there it's just all history. I got sucked down the rabbit hole, and so here we are.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like it's a pretty apt analogy, being sucked down the rabbit hole. People who just get into wargaming a lot of times will see games like Warhammer 40K or Warhammer Fantasy or even War Machine and other top-level games like that, and not realize that there's this plethora of other games just hiding below the surface that your friendly local gaming store isn't necessarily going to carry, but are very prevalent in a lot of these more private gaming circles, and especially online and in game stores in larger cities.
I kind of relate it to World of Warcraft, where when I started to play that game, everybody was level 80 and everybody was doing raids, and I got in at level 1, and it was hard to get to where I could play that. So that's your 40K. But then there are these other MMO games that had the same kind of idea, but it had an easier entry fee to get in, and you could play around at the lower levels, and you didn't have to go in, and just fall into everything. You could actually enjoy the part of the game that, there were other people playing at the same time.
Awesome. So of the games that you've played so far, what are you enjoying the most? What game has drawn your attention the most?
I think Wrath of Kings for me, because it was the first set of miniatures that I saw that were just exciting to look at, but also the same thing of kind of synergizing some strategy along with just learning to control multiple units, where, like I said, from D&D and Pathfinder and things of that nature, you had one person to care about. You had to know your set of skills, and you had to know them well enough to know that if somebody else was doing something, you needed to back it up or something.
Right.
But to be the general of an army and command everything,
it's a different sort of dynamic.
It really is. It's kind of hard to adjust to that at first, but then once you start playing it, the first couple of games are hard, but once you get into the third and fourth, maybe fifth game, you start seeing, okay, well, when I do that, this other guy could be here, and it could cause this to happen, or things like that, and it's it's easier to adapt at that point, and you don't have to rely on, is the other guy dying over here from HP loss? Do I need to spend my turn on that, or doing other things, because it's happening to all of you.
Right.
So.
Right. So right now in Wrath of Kings, you're playing Nasir, which for those of you guys who don't know, that is the sort of demon cult faction. They have these masks that channel energy from their gods to imbue all of their infantry and their large monstrous creatures with the power to do battle with other people. And what, aside from the fact that it was the faction that I handed you and said, here, these are free, take them, what has made you keep with that faction? What has enticed you about that faction?
I'm from D&D. I was really a run-in, strike things, get out, try to play it risky, where I learned that I couldn't play that with this faction. That's more of a Greetsy style, and I actually played Greetsy in my very first fight, and got obliterated because I tried to match them risk for risk, and that was way too risky for me, and it wasn't nearly as risky for him. So I decided that I was going to be stubborn and not go, let's figure out my playstyle and then pick an army.
Right.
It was, this is what I've got. I've spent time assembling, I've spent time cleaning, I've spent time even painting to some extent at that point.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I'm smart enough to figure this out, and I'm going to have fun doing it. And I really have. Yeah, it did, and now I'm comfortable with it.
That's definitely, I think, a thing that a lot of people run into when they start playing a game, even in games as big and expansive as 40K, with as many different units and ways to play even within a single faction. I feel like a lot of people jump right in and find the thing that they like the look of, and then try to play that play style, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, if you've got the heart and the perseverance to say, I'm gonna make this work, it's gonna happen, then you'll figure it out. But that's definitely something to think about when you're getting into a new game, is to really research how the armies play. Troll the forums, find opinions from people who've been playing the game for a while. Now, with Wrath of Kings, we got in at the ground floor. We got in before it even released to the public, because we'd backed Kickstarter. So we didn't honestly know everything. And to be honest, most of the time when I start playing a game, I don't even follow my own advice there. I just go for whatever looks cool, and I play how it plays. Above all else, I really love models. I love painting models. I love modifying models. It's kind of what I do. I'm an aesthetics guy.
Yeah, you are.
But for anybody starting, just getting into wargaming and thinking about picking up your very first game, that is something that I would definitely, and I think you would agree, doing your research first to find out how armies play will get you a more enjoyable and more fulfilling experience. It'll be an experience you want to repeat, as opposed to something that you have to fight with every time. I've definitely played games where it's, I've gotten it, I've assembled it, I've painted it, I've played my first game and thought, oh my, I've made a horrible mistake. These guys don't operate at all the way I want them to. And sometimes it's not even about what you bought. Sometimes it's about just the way that it's supposed to function and the way that you think. There are armies, even in Wrath of Kings, where I feel like Technus is pretty straightforward. I run all my pigs in, they hit things, I keep them in a brick, and they lash out when they die. And that's kind of how they go. But other armies, like I think Shale Han specifically, has lots of synergy.
I could not play Shale Han. I've played against Shale Han enough times to know that can stay on the other side of the table.
Yeah, they and many other armies like this in other games, you have lots of very fiddly, tricky synergy rules that if you don't execute perfectly, you're going to have a very mediocre force. And if that's not the kind, if you don't like to micromanage things, if you're not an RTS player that loves to really find all those nitpicky synergies, and you're not willing to micromanage every last little thing on the table, then it might not be for you. So you look like you got something to say.
I was just going to say, for me, something like Nasir was enough up my alley for me to enjoy. And then I actually did pick up Greetsy and put it together, and I played it once and realized that I really actually liked Nasir better because I had taken the time to learn the models and learn the strategies behind it, and it actually gave me more of a fulfilling game, because from that point on, I knew that I had conquered something in a sense. Whether I was, beating people or not, at least I knew that I was holding my own with an army that, in the beginning, was practically being dragged through the mud every game, and it was, and that's another thing was that I think I can stress to anybody who's new to wargaming is you're going to get your butt handed to you enough times that you're either going to quit, which we don't want to, advertise here, but to be able to walk away and say, I need to learn something from this is really important, and to be able to enjoy it, even if the game comes down to the very end and you lose, just to bring it down to the very end was it's always been for me some of the most gratifying battles, because I knew that my forces weren't as tough as I needed them to be right then, but that we nickel and dined them to the very last model or something to that nature.
I mean, I think probably our last game is a perfect example of that. In Wrath of Kings, you play to destroy your opponent's morale. You try to demoralize your opponent by killing their troops, by taking objectives out from under them, and the first person to drive their opponent down to 0 wins, except when you both go down to 0 in the same round, which actually happened. But then you start playing for negative points. So honestly, if you both go to 0 in the same round, that was a close game.
I counted it as kind of a win in my column. There's an asterisk next to that game, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was a tough game right to the end. You didn't let up at all, which was good. So, if you had other types of general advice for new wargamers, what would you say? What have you looked back on and said, man, if I had known that before, I probably would have done that a little differently?
I think it comes down to probably not in game as much as out of game.
Right.
The time between games necessarily. I didn't use the Facebook group, for instance, for Wrath of Kings all that much. I didn't ask for strategy help. I didn't even look at other people's strategy help that they were posting. And the thing was, is I really could have, because as it being a new game, people were just throwing information out there, and there was something that I missed in the cards and I didn't realize. And of course, you can't get your opponent to tell it to you. You're not going to bank on them being like, oh, you missed something here that would really hurt me. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh my goodness, that's something that I should have known. And from that point on, I won't ever forget that. For instance, the Pelgarth have this shield wall thing that just is amazing, and you can dodge complete damage because of something as trivial as somebody rolling a certain number that could have saved me in another game. So really just looking for the help of other people that have the wisdom that you may not have, and being humble enough to know I'm not going to come into this like some war game wizard and just kill everybody.
Unless you're Adam, and then you just mess everybody up for no reason.
He has too much time to read rule books.
So Adam is one of the crew here who mopped up pretty handily at Adepticon this year. He, with it being a brand new game, not everybody had the intense amount of time he had to study and learn every nuance of not only his faction but everybody else's, which made him a very tough opponent. So all the people who played at Adepticon will remember the ridiculously unfair competition he put up. So that was such a ridiculous thing.
Shout out to Nestor. We feel you, buddy. It's okay.
It's cool. We know it still stings, but it'll get better with time. So for the rest of this series, which we are calling Initiation Wargaming, I think that we're going to try to tackle some aspects of different games, especially the ones that you are starting to play. So things for Malifaux, hopefully things for Dark Age coming up here soon. I'd really like to get you into that.
Which is the magic word for I have a new game I'm going to be playing.
Yes. Definitely we want to talk about Warzone, because it's honestly something that none of us here in the studio have played very much of. And it'd be really fun to get to know that game, to be acquainted with that universe, especially because it's seeming to get so popular right now. Thanks guys for watching this episode of Initiation Wargaming. This is the first of hopefully many videos in this series. If you enjoyed this video, leave us a like and a comment below. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, definitely do that so you don't miss any episodes. And until next time, happy wargaming.